What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, Hitting the Bars. This is Savvy Wavy 1, ex-Savvy Wavy 1, since Twitter banned me, with KOC, Keltie O'Connor. How's it going?
Hot mess in it. I'm a disaster. I totally messed up the time this podcast was supposed to start. I tried to put, in my mind, it started at 11. It's 10 o'clock. And I moved it the wrong way on Google Calendar or Apple Calendar. I don't even know. And then, yes, I was like, oh, sorry for being a minute late. I'm like 5 minutes from the office. So just started booking it. So just one of those mornings. It's been one of those weeks of not of overcommitting myself and then being like, why did you do that?
I feel you.
You know what I mean? Those weeks, like, oh, I can
yeah.
do it. I can handle it. I'm trying to say no to things. Not saying I'd say no to this podcast. I'm just saying in general, that was the theme of a lot of running around. Even yesterday, a bunch of YouTubers were in the office, and one of them, Ben, the absolute sweetest, he's a TikToker, you might have seen it. He goes on like adventures. He's like, do you need help? You seem stressed. I'm like, no, this is just me this week.
I feel like your personality is stressed sometimes. Whenever I see you, you're stressed.
It's one of those things. I'm never very seldomly stressed. I just like work at a very high pace, if that makes sense. So it seems like frantic. I'm like, oh, I'm in control. I'm just sprinting.
It's your personality.
Yeah, it's
I
chaos.
get that. Yeah. But you know what? You're here. You wiped the sweat off your upper lip.
But still,
I think, yeah. I warned her. I was like, you might want to do that since this is a video. And she said, no, it's not going anywhere. And I said,
it's all
okay.
natural. You know
all natural.
You know those
I love
people who never sweat on the internet, they have a hard workout. I'm like, seems sus. Never see any sweat.
Yeah, well, I am partially hung over today.
Ooh.
I know. Look at
Crazy.
me. I know. I went to dinner with Millie yesterday, kicked the guys out and said we're having a girls' date. And we had lychee martinis, my favorite. 3 of them. And then we like become friends with the bartenders because we always go there.
Yeah.
And his name's Bruce. Shout out Bruce. He definitely has no idea what I do for a job. So that's pretty comical. But he like sends over a shot of tequila to us. And then I went up to him and was like, will you take it with us? And he was like, sure. So we had 4 drinks. And honestly, after 3 drinks, I'm toast. That's like my limit. I don't know about you. The older I get, the less I can have with drinks. I used to be able to pound like what's it called? A 5th in college.
Yeah.
On like a date dash. It was like a thing we used to do. And now Michael and I joke that I'm like 3 shots, I'm done.
Nice. I feel my tolerance has always been the same. It's like if I'm drinking consistently every week, it builds up a little. But if I take a step back, it falls. But also like now I know my exact limit of perfect drunk. Like I have it down to a formula. So versus before, I think I was just winging it. Be like, well, have a shot of this and a drink of that. And I was just freeballing it, and we didn't know what we'd end up with at the end of the night. Versus now I'm a bit more calculated. I'm like, okay, I've had 3 beers, I do tequila shot then, one more beer in me, one more, and then I'm perfect buzz. And then I'm self-aware that I'm like, you're perfect right now. You can cross. But there's the point of no return after that 7th drink. So that's, I know 6 is like...
7th like, is your
but
top?
But that's like accounting. I drink a lot of light beer. So you know what I mean? Like a light beer versus a martini. I'd say like that's... like you need 2 beers to hit a martini if you're having like a light, like a Bud Light. 2 Bud Lights is 1 martini.
Okay, that's fair. Because I'm like 3 martinis, I'm toast.
Oh yeah, that people don't realize like how strong martinis are.
Yeah, it gets the job done, but comes with a cost. You can't do it. And we were honestly there for 4 hours.
Oh wow!
But it's like I was annoying Michael so much.
Nice.
Do you ever just get like on each other's nerves? Like he wanted to like sit and basically hang out with me while I was filming a vlog, and I was just doing my makeup. That's all I was doing. But I wanted to talk to the camera, and I was like, I feel awkward with you sitting. He's like, well, I want to spend time with you. Like he was being nice, and I was like, no, leave. And I was being kind of mean, being like, I'm stressed. I need to, like, I'm already running late to this dinner. I'm trying to film this thing and get it up. And so he was all upset, being like, you don't want to hang out with me. So he leaves. Then I go to dinner. So he's already like upset because he's like, you've hung out with Millie like 3 days in a row. We haven't seen each other, even though I'm like, we work from home. But his love language is quality time.
Yeah.
And sometimes mine is not. So it can be hard when you're like trying to appeal to that. And so, yeah, he was like, can we go home now? Like, he was hanging out with Millie's fiance.
Aw.
They were playing tennis and having dinner, but he was like, it's 11. Like, it's been 4 hours. Can we please go home now? And so I was like, okay. And so he's like kind of annoyed because he's like, I wanted to go to bed early because he's also a grandpa like me. And so then I'm like, I'm going to annoy him in my drunken state.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, you're being annoying. And I'm like, you're being annoying. And so I would repeat everything he was doing like I'm a child.
Yeah.
So even he'd be like, can you stop talking? I say, you stop talking. And then I like stumble in and like he's just like, oh my gosh, you're so drunk right now. And then he's just looking forward, trying to ignore me. And I go, you look forward. And then he turns his face. I go, you turn your face. And he's like, Sav, come on. And I'm like, I have a brother. I was trained for this.
Yeah,
like
I'm prepared. We can go
I
all
can annoy
night.
you. Yeah. So this morning I woke up and I was like, I'm sorry. You were trying to hang out with me. I think it's funny I was being annoying. He was like, yeah, that was comical.
I
He's
love
like, I
it.
tell. Yeah, because he had to drive me home. But it was a good time.
I love like, and not annoying drunk, but like when your rebellious side comes out. And no, rebellious is different to everyone. Like sometimes that might be stealing or cheating, pulling all Raquel and Sandoval stuff. Or it could just be like, I'm just going to knock this over and see what happens. Or it could just be annoying somebody. You know what I mean? Like mischievous, not rebellious. I love that kind of drunk of you're like, let's just test a little limits. We're not going to do anything too bad, but like, let's just kind of cross the line.
Yeah. And it wasn't like a full-blown fight. It was just like an annoyance kind of thing.
Funny.
That I was like, I'm going to annoy him so much. And then, yeah, when I woke up, I was like, sorry, couple martinis in me. I told him, I was like, Bruce gave us shots. And he's like, God damn it, Bruce.
It's always Bruce. It's always Bruce. Question.
It really is.
What is your love language then, if it's not quality time? Not that it has to be quality time. I'm just curious what your love language is.
I honestly, the more I think about it, I don't think it's quality time. Physical touch, and I like words of affirmation.
Nice. Okay. It's good
what is yours?
For me to know that. Number one, physical touch. I'm just like, I need a hug. I need a hug so much. I'm like, I feel, and then quality time, I'd say. And then.
So, like the two opposites that you get on a long distance relationship.
Yep. And I always wonder, I was like, is it because I don't get that now that's just become it? But I've always kind of been like that. I just, when someone takes time out of their busy day and just spends it with me, I was like, that means a lot. Or if someone just gives me a big hug, I'm like, oh, I feel so loved right now.
Okay,
so that's
noted. Yeah.
Give me a big hug and I'll melt. So if I ever meet any of you one day and I'm like, I want a hug. I'm not, it's just how I express love. It's what I do.
Yeah, I love that. What is Meg's?
His is quality time. So it's kind of nice, like, because physical touch and quality time are so intertwined. Like, it feels very hard to have physical touch without quality time. Do you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Kind of works out in that favor. And neither of us is words of affirmation, which is kind of nice because that's not my strength. Not my strength. I'm trying to get better. I just like texting people. I was like, how's it going? I'm like, I'm just not good at it, but I'm trying because I know it's a lot of my friends and families is like acts of service, words of affirmation. So I try to just like send cards or say I love you or just remind me. I'm trying to be better at that. That's a life hack in my adulthood. It's like if I hear something, it reminds you of someone, tell them. Even if it's really weird. Like just heard a song, remind me of you. I'm trying to get better at that.
I agree. I think that's sweet. That's endearing.
Yeah, hopefully. Or annoying or creepy, depending how you do it.
Yeah, that's true. I also have Bentley over here. I need to stop letting this dog come in while we podcast.
Love Bentley.
I know, but he's like licking his foot. So I had to like snap so he stopped because I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm doing something weird.
Just something.
Because, yeah, I was like, oh, Bentley. God love him, but he's a rascal.
Is it a Twitch or is it Bentley? New game to play every podcast.
Bentley, yeah, the motherfucker is still licking his paws. He just hid from me, and I'm watching him lick it like a little deer.
It's like, I don't think that's sanitary, Bentley.
I don't think he cares ever.
No.
He eats cat poop for a living.
I was literally going to say I ate poop at one point in his life, so.
Every day. Honestly, we joke that if he was to get loose, there's a lot of stray dogs here, and we're like, he would not last longer than 10 minutes. But we joke that like he would be in a corner eating as much poop as possible before he went about his life because he loves it. Like I'm fighting him constantly because we got the stray cats that always poop everywhere, and he just loves it.
Probiotics.
I'm like, are you gonna get worms? I'm like scared for him.
I'm scared for him too. But let's change the subject because there's someone triggered by the number 2 talk. And let's jump into the episode, shall we? Do you want to intro it? Because this is your idea.
Okay, yes. I thought it would be fun to do an entire episode on comparison and how it can be the thief of your happiness. And I think it applies to everybody, honestly, whether it is, you comparing yourself on social media, or maybe comparing your life to someone else's, your job, your income, your families. Like I would love to meet somebody that says, I never compare myself ever. Because as much as you like to say that, it happens. And I think it's important because I know I struggle with this. So I thought, why not give you guys some tips on what we do to kind of get out of our comparison era.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Who should go first?
You go first.
I got it.
You kick it off.
Number 1, it's so obvious that I even hate to say it because we know it. But for me, I actually put an alarm on my phone this morning. Ironically, of this is putting boundaries on our phones, because I think that's the biggest. We used to just compare ourselves to the person next door, the best friend. We compare ourselves to every single human's highlight reel, and that's too much to take in. And sometimes I'm becoming aware of when I have too many thoughts, too many opinions. I was I don't have an opinion anymore because I think this, and then you're too this to someone, but not enough of this, and you spend too much money and not enough money, and you're too rich and you're not relatable, and you're poor, or you're this and that, and you're too fit, you're not fit. Because everyone's on a spectrum of everything. So you're constantly just be where am I? And it's hard on your identity. So for me, I try to on weekends not go on my phone. People do know I have a second phone for this. And I just delete everything. So I got music, an audiobook, and text messages. Because even podcasts, I think we have to just be careful of how much opinions we take in, how much TikTok, how much YouTube. We're just taking in so many different opinions and ways to live our life, and it's overwhelming. And I think the easiest thing is just get off your phone or limit it. I'm trying right now to not go on my phone before 9 a.m. and I wake up at 5, and that's because every time I do it, I'm just check. You just have to make sure. And then I'm putting out fires, and it ruins my whole morning. So yeah, maybe whether it just be give yourself some time in the morning, give yourself 2 hours on the weekend, just try and take some time and touch grass, or just that would be my recommendation. How about you?
I like that. Mine would be call real people in your life.
Yes.
I don't know. That always brings me back when I spiral. And even like you said, where you're take a break. The only time I allow myself to go on TikTok, if I'm not creating something, is Stairmaster. Having these weird boundaries of being you get to go on TikTok because it's such a dopamine hit. That I'm only when you're killing yourself on the Stairmaster. No other time. Because then if you start scrolling before you go to bed, that's just going to become your habit forever. So that could be an easy boundary. But yeah, call real people. If you're comparing yourself to something and you feel like crap about it, call somebody that knows you and loves you and is in your real universe. Everybody's living in their own little bubbles. Find somebody that's in your bubble and in your lane and talk to them about it. But I don't know, whenever I really have when I struggle with it, I'll call my mom, my dad, or just somebody that I know is in my lane for it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Let's get it's just reality. Touch grass, call a real human, pet a dog, just get out of the head and it's reality. Which here's my break glass in case of emergency. One, this is I don't even know where to start. Sometimes you're so overwhelmed. You have so much anxiety. And then you're oh my God, what did this person on TikTok tell me to do about my anxiety? We're overwhelmed, and I get that. And then I start spiraling. I just do the double inhale. And I've said 100 times, but it's I don't even know where to start. I just do 2 big inhales and a sigh. And I'll just do that for a minute or 2. And it just kind of quiets the noise. It's just okay, get back in my body. And it's you can go, but meditating's too much because I am meditating wrong. So I just go, and I'll do that a couple times and hey, what's the easiest thing I can do now? So that's where I start out if everything seems overwhelming.
I like that.
Yeah. What about you?
Another one of mine, and easier said than done because it's a no-brainer, but sometimes you need to really take time and remember this, is that whatever you're comparing yourself to is always fake. The grass is not always greener. Whatever it is that you're struggling with, we don't know the problems that person has going on. They're only showing you what they want you to see, right? So that's always just something I have to bring back to reality. And Michael and I talk about that I'm like, I'm so thankful we were raised where we barely had Facebook and MySpace, and like we didn't really have a lot of things to compare ourselves to. I'm like, the most scandalous thing I had growing up was Pretty Little Liars and comparing myself to those girls.
Yeah.
I mean, like, why do they look so much older or like so much cooler? And now I think of people and kids and, like just younger people that are like struggling because they're watching like freaking Euphoria or like watching, TikTok and comparing yourself to that. Like it can get so toxic. So just always know that it's fake and that it will ruin your brain.
And just like to kind of go off that is I also had the realization a little while ago of we kind of know like everything's fake and like people are filtered, people Photoshop, the prettiest girl might not actually look like that. We kind of know, but I think the seedy thing, and we all do this, and just to be aware, is even the most relatable people aren't showing you everything. And like I'll give myself and you as an example. I'd say we're very honest. Like we don't put neither of us Photoshop, like we'll just like saturation and that, but like we don't use filters, we don't do that, and it's nothing better. It's just like we're both on YouTube, so it's like, what's the point? Like you people know what we look like, but I don't show everything. People only see 10% of my life, so you know what I mean. You still are choosing, even if what you see is 100% real, and this person seems relatable. And like I remember even Emma Chamberlain's a great example. She's like the most relatable. She showed us her without makeup and her burping and all this, and it was like, oh wow, but her life is still perfect. And it's like her grandma could be sick, she could have slept in and had like a crippling panic attack we don't see, she could have an issue with a family member. Like there's so much we don't see, even for the people that seem relatable and realistic. So that's why comparison is also just it. We don't know what people are really dealing with or how happy or not they were when they posted.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And even kind of like you were saying, where you're good at taking a weekend off, or I've seen you're really good at like fully disconnecting. If you're just like, say you're having a really bad day, like I will have these where I'm like constantly scrolling because sometimes we have to scroll to get ideas, especially if you do like Instagram, you're like getting ideas for the trends, whatever. So you kind of get sucked into it. So you're like, then you start feeling worse about yourself. Yes. So what I do, if I feel really bad or just like overwhelmed, I'll leave my phone at home and I'll go for a really long walk with Michael or myself. Or it's just like, you don't have to fully do a full weekend. You don't have to have a second phone. You can just leave your phone at home. And like, not a lot of people do that. We met some of our friends for dinner one time. And my friend Jess was like, oh, I really respect that you guys do that. Because we mentioned like, oh, we just didn't have our phone. Like, they're like, why didn't you take a picture? We're like, well, we just left it at home. And they're like, oh, we never do that. And so I'm like, oh, just try it. Like, just leave it. Nobody is in dire need. You can bring your Apple Watch if somebody needs to get a hold of you. And if you have it connected. And just like, I mean, people lived very long time without phones because, or just put on Do Not Disturb. I do that like all day long. And then I'll check it, but at least I'm not constantly seeing the pop-up and like looking.
Or another option, also, because like once again, like I have the flexibility that I have the second phone and the weekends, and like that was just the price I spent. Instead of spending $100 on dinner with Megs on the weekend, I spent $100 a month on an extra phone, and that was kind of like my little. So it was like a Megs time. So it's more investment in relationship. But another trick, airplane mode, because even Do Not Disturb, I find it still, you can just like be walking and you're like, oh, just pop on, but go on a walk. And if you still want to listen to music podcasts, download it in airplane mode, and then you're off the grid is like a nice little hack as well.
I like that.
Like the ultimate Do Not Disturb.
Yeah. Do you have any other hacks?
My other one, this is, I say all the time, but it just helps me so much, especially if you're someone who's just always in your head. And I'm so bad at that. Like I think one thing and it leads to 100 thoughts. And I just do brain dumps. And I either I record just talking to myself, or I just open a notes app and just write out everything I'm thinking. Like so many times I've been like wanting to say something to someone, but I know it's also not, like I could see it from their side. I was like, I just need to put a boundary for me, but they don't need to hear it, but I'm spiraling and I don't need to put that on someone else. And I'll just write out what I would text them and just not send it. And it does help because then you kind of center yourself, get some clarity of it, or just write notes. So just those thoughts, just put them somewhere. And I find it kind of helps get rid of them for whatever reason. And then you can deal with it later but just kind of get it on paper or out of your mind can really help.
Yeah. I feel like 99% of the time, if you wait like to send it, you won't send it, or you'll
Oh yeah.
rephrase it and you'll be thankful. The amount of
Mm-hmm.
times I've been like, oh, I should have just waited, or yeah, you like blow it out of proportion because you're like emotions are
Yes.
heightened, and then a while, like give it a while to blow off steam, and then you're kind
Yep.
of good to go.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What about you?
For my next tip,
Yeah. Or was
I
that
feel
your
like
tip?
something weird. No, no, that wasn't.
Oh,
Something
I
weird
was.
that I like to do. I like going in like my own bubble, my own little world that's not social media or not my job
Hmm.
or things like that. And weirdly, that's Pinterest for me.
Okay, I can see it.
It's my
It's just
one
like
thing that makes me
scrapbooking.
happy. Yes, I
It's
can't.
scrapbooking.
There's and like I know some people like probably do compare because there's like cute style things. I don't view Pinterest. It's fake to me. It's
Hmm.
like you said, it's a magazine. And like if I ever just feel that way, I'll just go to it because it's mindless and like
Yeah.
it's just pretty pictures and yeah, I don't know. It's just like my one thing, and everybody has their one thing. But if
Yeah.
my one thing's TikTok, obviously that's going to make it worse.
Oh
Instagram,
yeah.
obviously going to make it worse. Pinterest is like, I've never once tried to do anything on it. I'm just like trying to see what I like and what I should decorate for my house. Like,
Hmm.
it's nothing I'm comparing to, which I think it could be the opposite for some people. But it's so
Definitely.
fake that I know I can't compare to it because it's so curated. It's just like this fake world,
And
Pinterest.
it's nice because it's just like it's not one person. It's not like, oh, this person looks beautiful and their house looks like this, they have money and all this. So it's just a bunch of things like curated together. So you're like, oh, that person isn't real. Like it's just like it almost feels like it's all AI generated. Like it like
Hmm.
literally feels like little cartoons, and you're like, oh no, this is just the thoughts in my mind. Like these are like you said, it's like a vision board. It's less of, oh, I should look like this person or I should eat like this person. It's just like, oh, I that's a recipe idea I might like. It's I feel the same way, but like you said, it might not be the case for everyone. And I'd say
This is
my
why
oh, go on.
Oh, can I end my?
Yeah,
This is
please
why
do.
I think Lemon 8 is a flop. Have you heard of Lemon 8? I don't think you
I remember
actually have it
you.
in
Yeah, you
Canada.
talked to me about it, but we don't have it.
Yeah. It's a mix between Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok. And it's like people signed up and now nobody's really using it. And I think it's because people at first were like, an app for the ladies. No one's going to make it aesthetic and pretty. And then what does everyone do? That's what they do because they're
Mm-hmm.
creative, whatever.
Yeah.
And I would go on and I would hate it because I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, everybody's so perfect. I don't like this anymore. And so
Yeah.
now people are just falling out of Lemonade. And I think that's the problem is it's like, it's not real. And
Yeah.
now people feel the need to make it look perfect because that's the trend on it is to make you look
Mm-hmm.
like this cute bloggy girl from like the early 2000s.
Yeah. Tale as old as time. They're like, oh, it's so relatable. And then it becomes unrelatable. And then
Mhm.
another one's created. And it's a cycle of social media.
Mhm.
I guess my other one that this is just always my default, and it's not the same for everyone, but it comes back to like just getting back in your body. And it's so easy. But I heard it was, I think it's called Burnout is the name of the book. And it's just ending the stress cycle. It's like you have a stimulus, you live in the stimulus, and you need to end. And we naturally are built that way but survival. But so much of us just live in the stress react, stress react, stress react. We don't have like the reward at the end. And we're so like crippled, I think, of like, oh, I can't reward myself now. I haven't worked hard enough. It's just like that hustle culture of like, and you're just on to the next thing. And like, there's something very natural, I feel, about like you work a hard day and then back in the day you would just like celebrate around a campfire and you dance and you'd sing and you would eat together and be joy and you'd have like that end of the day celebration just to kind of end. I'm out of stress, I'm out of chaos. And so like what I do at the end of every day, and I'm not perfect because like I worked till 11 o'clock last night, so this didn't happen last night, but I try to just take like 5 minutes or even half an hour. I either just put on my noise canceling headphones, blast some music, go for a walk, or blast it on my phone in my apartment. And I literally just shake it out. I was like, I'm just dancing. I'm just shaking off the day. I'm shaking off the stress. And it's just kind of like, this is the end. And there's just something very, it sounds simple. That was a recommendation she gave in the book. And obviously, like, music is like my biggest passion in life. So it helps. But there's something therapeutic of being like, this is the end of the stress. I've done the work. I'm ending it. I'm having a mini celebration. Maybe for some people, it's popping open some wine or hugging someone or watching a show, but just having that like end. We don't give ourselves that end to the stress. We just live in the stress. So
Mhm.
that's my
That's a good point.
recommendation.
Yeah, I actually love that. And yeah, we all have our own little thing. Because I guess Michael and I every single night take Bentley for like a mile walk,
I
no
love that.
matter what, without the phone. So it's like, of course, not always if he has meetings or if I have something that runs late, but usually we can like stick to, that's like, it's almost like we turn off these personalities where it's like, okay, that was work day. Now this is fun time. We're like, we're really good at not opening our laptops or only doing miscellaneous things like planning a trip that's fun. I've even noticed that with some of my friends that have like recently gotten into this space where they're all of a sudden their own boss and before they weren't. And they're like, I watch it where they like don't have their weekends. They don't have their break time. And I used to do that. And then I was like, I cannot do this forever. And so then I had to like, now I treat the weekends like a proper weekend, even though no one's telling me I can work or not work. I could technically take a weekend whenever, but like for me, I do that like traditional weekend. So I feel like I can unwind, not have to worry about anything during it.
I like that. And even with that, I feel a lot of people now don't work a traditional job. They don't work 9 to 5 clock out. There's a lot of people who freelance. They have a passion project. They work for themselves. I think it's giving yourself time away, but not putting too much. And I think that's a nice place to do it. Like even for both of us, we turn the weekend, but if we have an idea, and we go, I can go dabble into it. It's not like, no, I have to wait till Monday. And then Monday comes and you're like, da-da-da-da-da. It's like, you're taking time off. There's nothing you have to do. But if you want to dabble, you can dabble. It's just like whatever you feel like doing. Just having some time in your week that you're like, I'm just going to go with the flow. Wherever the flow takes me.
Yeah. Flow
like
it up,
that.
Girl.
Flow, baby, flow. Should I go on to mine?
Yeah, go for it. Those are about mine.
Okay, perfect. I'll end on my last one. And it's a reminder I tell myself. And this is like, I'm trying to do in this very present moment. I'm so bad at it. So I think it's realistic that I tell it. Is like everyone's in their own head. And not everyone is against you. In the sense that like, I'm so bad at like, I say something. And then in my mind, I play out the 50 different ways that person could take it. Or whatever. And then I'm like, oh my God, I feel so bad. And so I should apologize for this. And they hate me now. And then I just ruined our friendship because of this. And then like, usually they respond and they're like, oh yeah, that's fine. And in my mind, I've just spent like an hour of stress and anxiety over like just whether it be a boundary or a simple thing. And I think the reminder is like, we're all in our own heads. So all those people you see on social media are also not just like, oh, I'm perfect, post, good. They're also like, oh my God, was that okay? Was this too much? Was that there? Like your friends, when they say something to you, they're thinking that kind of stuff. Like obviously not to like the extreme extent sometimes I do, but just also realizing when you get in your own head, you're not broken, you're just human. Like it sucks that we're kind of like this, but it's not this thing that you have to be like, why am I always in my head? Like, why do I always have to think it? Like, give yourself some grace. At least that's what I've tried to tell myself right now. It's like, everyone does these things. It's just being human. We live in this new world. We haven't evolved to deal with everything coming in. And we're just trying to get by. And we're all doing it. And we're all just bubbles of anxiety, crashing into each other and exploding. And just be gentle on yourself. So if you're in your own head, just try and get out of it. But don't feel guilty that you got some thoughts swirling around. And that's what I'm working on right now, because I'm not good at it. Because I think the world hates me with every single thing I say.
But it is like you're your own main character. That's what I think of.
Yeah.
And then everyone else is a sub-character. But to them, it's opposite. So whatever you may have said, if it upset them, they'd talk to you. If not, then you can just move on and it's not that deep.
Yeah, it's not that deep usually. But we all think it's deep.
Yeah. I also think... like even who you follow in a sense, which is so cliche, everybody says that, you know, like don't follow people that make you feel compared. But like, I think there's a fine line with like, I don't like following a lot of celebrities because all their photos are like these Getty image perfect picture thing. I hate it. I'm just like, I could just go on a magazine website and like see this. So I love the people that are just chill and real. And I don't know, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but the accounts that do the like posed, unposed, even those, I'm like, I feel like you're still kind of comparing. I don't like it. Like for me, it doesn't help me at all. I know it helps a lot of people because they're like, oh, they were just posed the entire time. They look this way. It's normal, which is great. But when it's like their whole identity, that's all I see, I almost start overthinking things of my own body. So it's just like, be careful with what you consume. You can still support the people. Also, know there's such thing as mute. Like you can support somebody and mute them. I have a lot of muted people.
Oh yeah, you gotta do that. And like you said, it just everything's a mind game. Like the unposed post was a great trend, and it still is like a reminder. Our pants are hiked up, we're all posing, but like it starts to even play mind games like that. You're like, am I too posed? Am I being like you go to like sometimes like I said, it's not that deep, and then people over acknowledge. Like here's an example: you go with your friends, they just take a cute photo. You're gonna pose your best. You're not thinking too deep about it, and then suddenly these people are like, that's being unrealistic. You're posed, and that's not a good example. And then you're like, well, I was just trying to look good in a photo, and I wasn't. Anyway, I mean, it's like everything we do could be criticized now, and I think that's it. Like you can look too good, you can look, and then now we're criticizing the people that are posing. Like, you know what I mean? Everything could just be, it's like a cycle of it, and you just gotta step out of the cycle, jump in, jump out.
Absolutely.
Speaking of jump in, jump out, enough of the deep stuff. Should we go have a little giggle in the confession session?
Let's do it.
So this is where you guys submit your unhinged moments. Hit us up on our Instagram. And this week we decided for our corporate girlies, let's do the office edition. So you could submit some white lies, unhinged moments you've had at the office this week. Sav, start off with number 1.
Oh, this is by far my favorite confession session.
Yeah.
Said I had a meeting and was too busy, but instead went on a hot girl walk listening to Hitting the Bars. That's my favorite one. Hands down.
Perfect. It's productivity at its
Productivity at its finest. We're here for the corporate girlies.
Yeah. You need to see what we're saying. You were working too hard. You needed a break so you could rejuvenate, come back. You needed a laugh. And that's what we're here for. Just a little giggle. Okay, next up. Unpopular opinion. Confession session. I am now dating my coworker. Office romance. What are your thoughts?
Ooh, I love spicy.
Oh, yeah. It's fun.
Except it's just awkward if you break up.
True. Or how long, like, if the office doesn't allow it. Like, at what point, like, how long do you stay undercover as...
Wait, low-key, I would do that. That sounds spicy.
Right? I think that's a plot of a movie. It's just, like, that's gotta add, like, a little spice. Like, you almost get a cosplay all day. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're like, your boyfriend, girlfriend, they're like, bye, I'll see you at work. And then at work, you're just this corporate, and the whole time, it's like, everything you say is, like, underlining meaning, and no one knows. I'm like, that's spicy, and I like it.
Low-key, I love that for her. Oh my gosh. Okay, my next one. Said out meeting was an hour.
Said our. I think she had
okay.
a typo.
I was like, your typo. Said our meeting was an hour, really 10 minutes, and went for lunch. Classic. You have to, honestly.
Got to.
You're so dedicated. I really do think this. You're dedicated to these jobs.
Yeah.
You're working your ass off. You're also like spending your entire life in these. Like, 5 days a week, 9 to 5 is a long time. Go take your lunch and don't feel guilty about it. Screw being a rule follower.
The girls need to hear this. Here's a little tip of advice I was told, and I was like, us girls, we can take those little breaks. If you're like, wow, I was supposed to have an hour meeting, it was finished in 10 minutes, and then we took the rest of the time to go on a walk and go to lunch. You do it. Because you know what the men have been doing for 30, 50 years? Business meetings on golf courses.
Yes.
You think they're like, oh, sorry, we got to go take the new, potential contract out to golf so we can talk about it and get to know him. That's bullshit. You're not getting it. It's great. It works. Like, it clearly works. But, like, we're allowed to do stuff like that. So if you're like, oh, we're just going to take the new one out. We're going to have lunch, get a little Prosecco, maybe take a little shopping, maybe do fitness, whatever you do it, guilt-free. Because the men have been golfing guilt-free for 50 years. So do it.
Preach,
no
sister
guilt.
friend.
I'm not saying they can't do it. Keep doing it, boys. I love that for you. But we also get our version of the golf course.
Yeah, I love that. What's yours?
I was asked to be on a committee, said, I check my dates. I just didn't want to do it. And, like, that's classic. Like, how, like, someone comes in, you're like, gives you something deep down, you're like, I can't say to this person's face, it's a hard no. So you're like, I just got to check my calendar. I'll get back to you. Sorry, I completely forgot. I got a dead disappointment in 3 weeks. And they go, what about next week? And then it just silence. I was like, we've all done it.
I love that. Have you ever seen those jokes where I was just watching Ted Lasso and somebody was like, oh, we should go out to drink sometime. And the girl was like, I'm busy. And she was like, I didn't say the day.
Yes, that's perfect. You're like, I'm just busy from now on.
Can I have a confession session in the office?
Please.
Okay. I was a corporate girly And I had just graduated college, went straight into the sales job, and I've never been a rule follower. So I was like, how can I finesse this place? Also, I did sales. So I was hitting my numbers, okay? So that's appropriate. Like usually in sales, you don't have like a clock in, clock out. It's just like you hit your number. They don't really care what you're doing. So I would go every day like an hour early before everybody else. So like nobody really knew what time I'd go. And they'd always say like, oh yeah, if you show up at 9, stay till 5. If you go earlier, you can leave earlier, right? I would do this thing where I'd go early so nobody could track back when I started. So say 6 and nobody would go in. It's a Seattle office. And have my coffee, everything. It was honestly lovely. And then like after lunchtime, say around 12 or 1, I would bring a decoy purse into I would go above and beyond into my office. And I would put it on my desk. And we had these like rooms. Like we had 2 different offices. One you could look over the water, and then one like had a bunch of calling rooms. And you could like basically hang in these tiny calling rooms and like make cold calls and things. So I would basically head over there and be like, hi guys. And I'd have my purse like at my desk, and then I would leave. I would literally sneak out of the office near those cold call rooms, and then just leave my purse there. And so people thought, oh, Sav must still be here. She must be in the calling rooms. I had left early every time.
I love. I have
to beat the traffic on a Friday.
Smart.
Oh, tell me.
So this one's less of a confession session, more like awful boss story. So I worked for this fitness chain, and I was like technically the manager, but kind of like I was just the higher up of like the salespeople. Like I wasn't really running the show. And one of the owners was also like actually ran the show kind of at the office, but like I was more in charge of operations, they were more in charge of the fitness. So you get that dynamic. And say I got like a half an hour lunch break was all I got. 9 to 5, I think it was half an hour. And she comes up to me and she knew I was really big into fitness. She was big into fitness. She's like, I just want you to be happy here. And like, I really promote, like, I know you don't really have a lot of time to work out with these hours. Actually, I think they were later. She's like, you're more than welcome to go to the gym because there's a gym nearby. Work out for like an hour and a half on your lunch break and just like stay a little later in the day. And because like they had these set hours for me, she's like, that's fine. So I was like, okay. So I did that for a couple of months. I was like, great. I had a little like hour and a half, 2-hour break in the middle of the day, could get my workout in, and then I stayed later. And then the owners like come in and like pull me in and just ream me out there. You're taking hours. And she was there and didn't take the fall. And she gained up on me. And she was like, yeah, this is inappropriate. Like, we had these hours, all this. Like, you have to stick with it. I'm, like, sitting there, and I'm like, yes, I'm sorry I abused the privilege. And she, like, gained up on me. I was like, you're the one who told me. This thought wouldn't even cross my mind. And she just...
Did you ever say anything to her?
I was, like, also should not have had this job. I was, like, 21. And, you know what I mean? She was, like, older and owned the company. And I was, like... They also hired me, and I had no credentials to be doing this. I was like, I'm the boss of people a year younger than me. I was like, this is chaos. But yeah, and she just pretended she didn't know. And maybe she forgot. I'll give her the benefit of she forgot.
No way.
But I'm like, you were
Sabotage.
the one who gave me this idea. And then I was like, oh. And then honestly, that whole company for me just went, ooh. And I was like, I don't care. I'm getting out of here. I was like,
that is so awkward. I'm also upset you didn't call her out.
I know I should. Now I would have. You know what I mean? But I think that comes with age. You're just like 20 and you see authority and you're like barely an adult at that age. Like I've been an adult for like 2 years at that point. I wasn't going to stand up to someone twice my age. But now I would have been like, no, you told me to do this. This is on you.
Totally. I used to have a lot of those problems working at Starbucks. I don't know why, but like there it was like, and I don't know if there's any girlies that are baristas listening to this. There's some like hierarchy thing where like when you're new and you come in, like they bully you and they can be mean. And like I had that when I first started. I had a girl that was really mean to me and would say, I don't like you. And then like once I just got better at my job, then all of a sudden she was my friend and I was scarred. And I was also 17. So I was like, not going to stand up to her. I just was like, what a mean girl. Probably singing Taylor Swift Mean, like in my car crying. I would cry because I was like, this girl's so mean. And then, college came and I would transfer every summer. You weren't supposed to with Starbucks, but they'd always allow me to do it because they were like understaffed. And I'd transfer and they would always be these really fucking mean women. And it was always the women. The guys were so chill. And it was like, I don't know. I always had it. I transferred 4 different like locations for 4 summers, and there was always a mean girl. And like, but they would say things like, I don't like you, or like, oh my God, you don't know how to do that. You're not doing anything right. Like, and I'd be so scared. And I remember, I will never forget this one girl. It was a only drive-through in Kent, Washington, where I'm from. And the girl like was, I don't know, twice my age, and she just was such a fucking bully to me. And one time I handed like the wrong drink to the wrong car, and since it was only drive-through, they'd have to drive through again. And I was like, oh no. And she was like, are you kidding me? And she's just like hounding, yelling at me. And I go, but did they die? And that was my comeback. That was my comeback. I was like snapping, and I was like, I can't. And so I reported her, and my younger cousin worked there. And she would say the most outlandish things to my cousin. I said, you got to stop talking to her. She's like 16. Leave her alone.
Yeah.
I hate mean bullies, and I hate them when they're at a job and you feel like you're inferior, so you like can't say anything. And so you just allow them to talk to you like dog shit. Yeah. And I just am like, I hope karma gets you.
Exactly. And then one day you grow the balls, and then you suddenly start standing up for yourself. You're like, wow, people just respect me. And then respect
Once
me.
I said, did you die? She was like, damn.
I think that's a life lesson. There's some people who will walk over you, and then one day you just have to call them out on it, and they'll be like, oh, I can't mess with you anymore. And then it's over. So you just sometimes have to plant those heels in the ground and just be like, no, I deserve existence too. Stop being a bully.
Yeah. And then also make them over. Like bring them to reality if it's not that deep, in a sense of like, she would get so mad at me over these small little items. And for me, I was like, bro, it's just a college job. Calm down. Like literally nobody cares. This company's so wealthy. And once I was like, but did they die? And honestly, this job is not that important for this. Yeah. And she was like, oh, yeah. Like it kind of makes them feel like, oh, shoot, you're totally right. Why am I getting like my panties in a twist? And I'm like,
definitely.
Yeah. That's take a chill pill.
Good metaphor even for, or like reminder for this whole episode of like most podcasters are listening to and YouTubers and influencers, and they're stressing about all this stuff. I'm like, it's not that deep. If you know, even us, like if we never post again, the world's fine. They'd be a little sad. Like, oh, I miss you. It's fine. The world keeps going on. Most of our jobs, unless you're the surgeons and the lawyers and the teachers, you deserve to be like everything because you keep this world running. A lot of us just need to step back and be like, is Starbucks going to be okay if this Frappuccino doesn't get out in time? Yes. It's not the end of the world. Like a lot of, especially your first jobs, like they seem like the end of the world and the bully. You're like, so be it. So you spill 2/6 of vodka and crack it open all over and everyone's screaming at you. It's okay. It's just some vodka.
Yeah. It's just vodka. You should have just, what is it called? Waterboard?
Waterboard? Ooh. You want to hear? Actually, here's a confession session.
Wait, waterboarding, isn't that how you kill people?
Severe torture.
Yes.
Is
that what it's called?
Yeah, that's when you put like the like blanket or like something over your face and you pour the water. That's why.
No, I'm talking about at a bar if it spills on the counter. What is that called? Zamboni it.
Oh, Zamboni.
Zamboni it.
That's probably a Canadian phrase because that's like what they use at the hockey arenas. That's the thing that cleans it.
Haven't you heard that? Zamboni it.
No, I haven't. I think like people would say it and it just makes sense. So I never think of it as a saying, I guess. That's just Canadians.
That's hilarious. Well, it's not waterboarding. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Okay, I got one last confession session then to leave off with.
Okay.
I hope someone saw this. It reminds me of the spilled vodka. I worked the Calgary Stampede years ago. And I worked at Cowboy. So if anyone in Canada, they realize the magnitude of that. That is a high pressure bartending gig. And you as a bartender, in essence, the bar is giving you alcohol and then you're selling it. And so if any of that alcohol is going, it's disappearing, you owe that money. So if the 2/6 is worth $300 rang in, if it's gone, you owe the bar $300. So hopefully you gave it to a customer so you have that $300. So it's, especially the prices are crazy at things like that. And I can't remember what happened. Someone had a big, massive, like 40 of Grey Goose. So premium alcohol too, swung around and this thing cracked in half. And in all my mind, all I could think is like, save this vodka. Because I was like, that's $1,000 down the drain. And I was 18 and broke. I think severed off vodka head, slammed my hand down on this thing, and just to cover it. And I mean, it just destroyed this vodka, red. It was like nothing you've ever seen before. And I was just like, and also it's burning. We tried to save it because it was like half all over, and we were able to somehow save some of it. Anyways, it was just chaos. It was like bright daylight, so everyone saw this. And then the managers at that place give you nothing. And for whatever, this guy was like, thank you so much for trying to save. And the manager gave us a brand new bottle of vodka. But also that vodka was half gone. So we ended up making like $500 of extra vodka to just pour away because he gave us a new one. Wow, that's amazing. He's like, that was commitment to saving it. And so I bartended the rest of the time with this like insane cast on I never got stitches, anything. I just bartended. The pain I felt for the rest of that, just ripped open hand pouring alcohol. So
that's wild. That's dedication. Yeah, maybe we should at some point do an entire podcast based on funny stories of our previous jobs, because I used to work at Hollister and Abercrombie, and you just got stories for days, you know, that you're like, yeah, I did too. We could do a whole Abercrombie. God. We would. The most basic girls. Oh my God. It was a status symbol when I was 18. I was like, I work at Abercrombie. And now I'm like, oh, mine was in college, so it wasn't a status. It wasn't
18 is college.
Cool. Or I was like 20.
20.
It was, I don't know, it wasn't cool. It was like my friend Jordan got me the job. Yeah. But then she got me a job at Gilly Hicks. And then Gilly Hicks went out of business literally the day I went. I showed up for my first day on the job. They were like, yeah, so it's dissolving. So we're just going to move half of you to Hollister, read off 10 names. All right, the other 10 go to Abercrombie in the mall. And so I go to Abercrombie with Jordan, never trained. No one ever trained me.
Wing it.
And nobody knew because of that overlap. Yeah. So I had to exist for years at Abercrombie, not knowing how to fold a shirt. Their weird folding methods. I had no idea. I used to have to stay late and like fold, and I'd be like, Jordan, please help me. And I didn't know how to use the board, and I get yelled at all the time. And they're like, how do you not know this? And I'm like, I couldn't tell them what had happened. So I just was like, I'm so sorry. And then the cash register, finally, they put me on it, and I was like, oh my God, I'm getting nervous. I'm starting to ask people like, so which button? And like, I was kind of familiar with the cash register from Starbucks. So I finessed my entire job at Abercrombie. Well people done. Used to say, can you check for an extra size in the back? And I would just go in the back, stand there for 5 minutes on my phone, and come back and say, sorry, there's no size. I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to look it up. I wanted to help them. I just didn't want to tell anybody I didn't know how to do it.
Yep. You survived, and I'm proud of you. We should do a whole, old jobs / Abercrombie. That would be, I've got a lot of tea on that company, so.
Oh, hell yeah.
More than happy.
Let us know if you guys want that.
Pre-cancellation, so I'm like, all those rumors you heard were true.
What cancellation?
About, like, them only hiring, like, skinny white people, and, like, have you heard all about that? And, like, the boss being, like, that was, like, anyways, we talk all about it.
Maybe we should
like the owner of it got fully canceled because he like literally kind of openly said we don't hire people of color, and they did, but they put him in the back. Oh yeah, like it was so toxic. And so I was there pre-realization of all that, and then I quit, and then a couple of years later, and it was like eye-opening because I was 18 and dumb, and it was before we were educated on stuff like this, and then stuff started coming out. I was like, I hate to say it, like, I was the blonde, white, skinny girl at the front of and then anyone of color was folded shirts in the back. Like, it was, like, so everything they said, like, just bad stuff like that. And, like, you're oblivious at 18. You're like, whoa, got a job. I just stand at the front and say, how's it going? Great gig. And now I'm like, you idiot. Like, how do you know what I mean? But, like, that's
and everyone,
the whole episode.
Everyone that worked at Abercrombie, they always be like, hey, how's it going? They're so Cali about it.
Oh, yeah.
With their taglines. The what?
Taglines?
No. I was never trained, bro. I just said, hey.
I guess you wouldn't even know. Yeah, they had all these, like...
I was probably sent in the back half the time because I didn't know what these taglines.
Probably. I'm sorry. We'll leave it on a cliffhanger of what the taglines are, because we'll save that for the episode. Because that's the stupidest thing a corporate has ever made me do.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. But... yeah. Thank you for tuning in, like always. If you guys want to follow us and submit your confession session, hit us up on Hitting the Bars on Instagram. Slide in an unhinged moment at the gym or the bar or your work and get it off your chest.
All right. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.